What's going on, everybody? Welcome. Today is Thursday. It is June 2nd, 2022. My name is Jeremy. This is my first cup. Good morning to Stacy and Liz and Mark and Jenny and all the rest of you, whether you're watching live later or listening. Thanks for coming by. How was your Wednesday? I had a productive Wednesday. I really did. I got through a bunch of good stuff. I went to the gym. I feel like things are clicking right now, and it's a really exciting feeling. You know that feeling? You know that feeling where things are kind of moving along, especially in contrast of the last really close to a month of just being sick off and on and not being able to get any momentum for really anything. It's just been kind of like bare minimum. But I'm excited with everything that's going on. Good morning also to John and Josh and Nathan and Brian and Dennis. Look at everybody here this morning. And Andy. I really do like when you guys, roll call in the chat. Lets me know who's here. So it's Thursday, which means new episode. We're going to talk about the subject that we didn't get to yesterday in the Facebook chat. For those of you who haven't seen that yet, you can go ahead, jump over there and maybe leave your comment. We'll talk about it in person as well. But the question being how your parents thought or think of your time in the martial arts. And we've got something here from Frank. So that's, we got plenty of stuff going on. Guess what happened yesterday? It rained, but guess what else happened? The landscaper came and cut my grass. And it looks terrible because it's the first time it's been cut this year, which is great. But I asked him, I said, go ahead, come back next week and get it cleaned up. So, but I'm looking at all these projects I got to do, all these things I got to do, and get out there with my weed whacker to help him see, no, leave this, cut that. Because anybody who's been to my house understands this place is a farm. Good morning, Kelly. Kelly says, here. Oh, no. I'm so sorry. Frank says, speaking of being sick, apparently I tested positive for the C word yesterday. Send good vibes, everyone. Well, I hope your symptoms are minimal and pass quickly. I'm fairly certain I've had it twice. But who knows? First time it was before we had tests for it. And then people sending vibes. So Thursday. Oh, and I recorded an episode yesterday. There was a kind of an out of sequence Thursday episode we recorded that one of you recommended this person and the thing that they do. And it was actually a great conversation. There are times that we bring people on that because so much of their life is about this thing that they do, and that thing being a commercial endeavor, even if it doesn't make much money, it's their job. And sometimes I get nervous that the episode we'll be left with will seem like a commercial. We set up a couple parameters. I said a couple things to the guest before we got started. I'm getting more confident. I'm finding my voice in these things. I said, this is what we need to do to make sure it comes out good and to make sure that people actually care. And he did it. And it was a good episode. There's some wonderful information. This is one of those episodes that I think some of you are going to listen to and go, I learned a lot in that one. And even more so, it's unfinished questions, unanswered questions. There are things, we do this, we do this, we do that. And I'm going to leave, I think, quite a few of you going, oh, okay. Hold on, let me take notes. This may be a note-taking episode. Andy says you have a lot of trees out by my house. Yeah, lots of trees. Very, very many trees. Dennis being ridiculous. Kelly, it is. So So there's that episode. But what episode do we have today? Let me check. Let's look. I think this is that other one that Andrew and I did. Oh, wrong channel. Got to switch from my personal one because I try not to watch whistlekick stuff from my personal channel because it throws things off. Library, your videos. Episode 715, fundraising. This was an interesting topic, and it's one that I really enjoyed tackling with Andrew. We talk about raising money in a lot of different ways. Talk about it in the kind of the conventional senses that we see within martial arts schools, and we get into some stuff that's a little less conventional. So I would encourage you to check out that episode. It's not a super long episode. And videos on YouTube, audios in your podcast feed. It's all over the place, as you know. Remember, if you have guest or topic suggestions, we want to hear them. Most of you have direct contact with Andrew. You can reach out to him. There's also a form at whistlekickmartialartsradio.com you can fill out. So there's that. Today, what's going on today? I've got a handful of meetings, a few other smaller things. I'm giving a presentation on the 15th. I think it's like 3 hours long. I got to prepare for that at some point. I know roughly what I'm going to do. And let's be real. I've taught martial arts enough that I don't need a lot of preparation for pretty much anything I'm going to present on. Because that's what I grew up with was your lesson plan is little more than a couple thoughts in the back of your head and you just roll. And this presentation, I posted the link on my personal Facebook page. I'm giving a talk on how to have all of your stuff and remain productive, whether you're using your computer or somebody else's computer or your phone or your tablet, and just really set your, for most people, it's going to be their professional life, but just set up their assets, their computer assets to be safe and secure, but available. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about that. This is a local economic development organization that I've done a number of presentations for over the years, and they reached out and they said, "Hey, you want to do this?" And I said, "No, that one's kind of old. It was basically smartphone productivity." And I said, "We need to expand that now because we have a growing number of people who work part-time from home, part-time from the office. And then what about those people that you then throw them on the road or they're at their kid's soccer game because they squeezed out a little bit earlier. They thought they could get away with it, but now it's like, how do I do this?" So, yeah. So I'm going to give a presentation on that, give some thoughts. It's always interesting when I do those. People show up and they're like, "Okay, I want a list of the apps that I install." It's like, well, this is a lot more than that. This is concept driven. And then they take lots of notes, and 90% of them don't do anything with them, which is always a bummer. But if I can get one or two people to actually take some action and improve their lives, I'll take it. I mean, heck, they're paying me, so these are all good things. All righty. Let's go to what Frank sent us. On this day in 1976, Antônio Rodrigo Nogueira was born. And this information comes from bjjheroes.com. Nogueira was born in Vitoria da Conquista in the state of Bahia, Brazil, on the 2nd of June, 1976. So today. His father was an accountant and his mother was a gym owner. Because of this, Nogueira grew up in a gym environment and started training martial arts very early together with his twin brother, Rogerio Nogueira, who goes by the nickname now Minotauro. At the age of 4, starting off practicing judo, the well-publicized accident that left Rodrigo in a coma for 4 days happened when he was 11. Nogueira was run over by a truck, which left him severely injured with broken ribs, ripped liver, crushed kidneys and lungs, and a torn Achilles tendon. He also lost lost part of his back muscles, this being the reason why he has a visible gap on his back. Minotauro miraculously survived, but he had to learn how to walk again and relearn the most basic tasks. For a few years after the accident, Rodrigo still felt pain in his back, where he was missing part of his muscles, and he could not return to competitive sports. It was only when he was 14 years old that he made his comeback to judo. By then, he was already living in Salvador as his family moved away from Vitoria da Conquista. Trying to make the most of the time he had lost due to his accident, Big Nog started adding sports to his day-to-day activities, starting to box at the age of 15, jiu-jitsu when he was 17, and even freestyle wrestling at 20. His first BJJ instructor was Guillermo Assad, who came from the Ricardo de la Riva Academy. In BJJ, Nogueira found a sport in which he excelled. He started adding to his regular trips to Rio de Janeiro to train with his master's master, de la Riva, which resulted in many medals in the lower belts, leading up to his black belt in '99. Being a regular presence among the Carlson Gracie Academy in Rio, also linked to Master de la Riva, a team heavily focused in MMA, Big Nog started also looking to compete in MMA. With the growth of MMA in Japan at the turn of the century, and after a successful run at the Rings MMA organization, Rodrigo Nogueira was invited to fight for the Pride FC Heavyweight League. Pride was at the time rapidly becoming the biggest MMA organization in the world. Do you all remember that? And Minotauro fell straight away into the deep end of the pool, debuting against a legend of the sport in Gary Goodridge and later Mark Coleman. He would win the title shortly after against Heath Herring, becoming in the process one of the most celebrated fighters in Japan. His reign as Pride FC champion was long and prosperous, though he met his nemesis in Fedor Emelianenko. We're just going to run with it. A man who dethroned Antônio Rodrigo Nogueira of his title. After the collapse of the Pride organization, Minotauro's contract was bought by Zuffa, the organization behind another big MMA production, the UFC. Nogueira would win the interim title of the UFC, also against Tim Sylvia, a fight he won via guillotine choke. Minotauro's career in the UFC had ups and downs, many crediting his losses to understandable, quote, wear and tear of his body due to his many wars in the sport. Be that as it may, Antônio Rodrigo Nogueira is seen as one of the best heavyweights to have ever competed in MMA and a great icon of the sport. I pay very little attention to the UFC and professional MMA these days. Most of you know that. I've been very open about that and why. And for those of you who may not know, the short version is integrity. But I still very much enjoy amateur MMA, and I do enjoy early days pro MMA. You know, when you look at the likes of when Georges St. Pierre started fighting, him being a kind, respectful person was not uncommon. And you look at some of the others, Machida, etc. You know, these are guys who are wonderful, wonderful fighters. They are rooted not just in physical ability in a particular traditional martial art, but in spirit. You can see it. You can see it in how they conduct themselves, but you can also see it in the way they fight. And I like that. And I know we'll never get back there because there's way more money in the entertainment aspect than the combative aspect. But let's just say that in the last couple of weeks, my idea for a thing that we've been working on for years took a small step forward, and I have a meeting next week related to it. So I will not share more about that, but that's where we're at. Take care, Andy. I bought heavy cream at the store for my coffee, and it's delicious, and I'm very excited. Oh, crunchy crunch. Crunchy crunch. Instead of getting into a conversation about the UFC, let's get into this conversation. This is stuff I want to talk about. So I'm going to share this tab. Let's go over here. All right. So here we go. What do or did your parents think of your martial arts journey? Now, I want to hear about this from all of you. I want to know, some of you commented in there, but I want to ultimately hear from all of you about what your parents thought or think. If you pay attention to martial arts radio and the conversations that I have with people, it is something I find very interesting because depending on the age, there's kind of a stereotype, right? If it's anybody under the age of probably 11 or 12, there's a very good chance their parents have some influence in them training. It's not just, hi, mom, I'm 6. I want to do Taekwondo. Okay, we'll drive you. It's usually more, hey, let's get this 6-year-old into Taekwondo. Once they reach kind of adolescence, early teenage years, maybe even middle or later teenage years, it's generally the kid's idea, but the parents are some level of supportive. We've heard from people over the years who their parents paid for it but didn't want it or would drive them, or some of them are just, if you can get there, get yourself there and you can find a way to pay for it, we won't stop you, right? And then when we hear from people who start in their adult years, we rarely get any context on how their parents feel about it. But this is our chance. Let's talk about this. Now, for those of you who may not know, I started when I was 4. It was my mother's idea, and I'm really glad that she made it happen. Okay. Yeah. So let's hear from some of you. Jenny says, when I was a kid, around 9 years old, I asked if I could train in karate. My parents didn't let me. Girls didn't do that. I got to take dance classes instead. Well, that's a shame, but good on you for making up for lost time. And I can close that tab and we go over here. All right. So Dennis has this great photo here of him with his parents. My parents never imagined, nor did I, that my martial arts journey would carry me 40 plus years into multiple schools, from white belt to black belt to teacher to school owner and so on. They have remained steadfastly proud through all of it, often stopping by the dojo to see their little boy doing his thing. I'm forever grateful to them for helping me get started on this journey. Oh, that's awesome, Dennis. We gotta throw some love on that. Rebecca says, I'm pretty sure they don't know how to think about it, which is progress. Given the gender stereotypes of my youth, 70s and 80s, any sort of physical confidence then was perceived as somewhere between, quote, cute and delusional. I'm impressed and pleased that they've changed their perceptions enough to have reached odd, but you must know what you're doing. That's in quotes. That's fantastic. Thank you, Rebecca. Stacy says, my parents tolerated my martial arts at best. She started as an adult. They were less enthusiastic about why I started training to take better pics, especially of my friend Jeff. They were happier when I stopped, and they were not around when I started over. What's the job of a parent, right? To raise their kids, to support their kids, to help their kids remain safe and grow and all that stuff. So if parents are struggling with their children taking martial arts, with rare exception, I think we can chalk it up to a lack of understanding. In the same way that so many parents today struggle to understand what karate or taekwondo looks like if they've never participated, if they've never seen a class. If their understanding of martial arts comes exclusively from what comes over television or internet highlights, a lot of that's going to be MMA. A lot of that is going to be, movies. And no, if I had a kid and that's all that I knew about martial arts, I would probably not want them involved. One of the long-term goals of whistlekick is that we set up some sort of or help fund some sort of nonprofit, and that nonprofit being singularly focused in kind of as an industry body to promote traditional martial arts to those who do not understand what it is, to take out ads, to encourage articles, basically a lobbying group, so people can stop drawing their own false conclusions about what traditional martial arts is. That's one of my goals. John says, I started Taekwondo in my 30s. I think my parents are pretty well indifferent to my martial arts training. I find that interesting. Have you asked them? I would be curious if you asked them what they thought. Because I would imagine in your 30s, they think you're at least, you're a functional human being. You've remained alive and you made this choice. And while they may not agree with all of your choices, assuming that they're proud of how they raised you, it should line up more or less with how they raised you. Right? Let's go to another one in Facebook. I forgot how good my coffee is with cream. Anna says, I went home with a school flyer with a bunch of info on it in 5th grade. All my mother had to read was builds confidence, and she was sold. I barely spoke more than 2 paragraphs a day in school. Fast forward, I've been training for 22 years. I'm very thankful because martial arts isn't cheap, and I know my parents sacrificed so I could go. My dad wasn't afraid of me going to college because of the self-defense and discipline I had learned. My mother hates watching me test for new ranks to this day, but she's proud of what I can do and that I'm physically active. I love it. Kelly says, we need to create a martial arts day. We have days for every possible thing. For example, there's a national day for dance. Frank, maybe you can do some research. Is there a day that a martial arts day that somebody's tried to put together that we can get behind? We can put a little bit of oomph into. Here's a fun, completely unrelated. In the early days of my IT company, so 2003, I'd opened a store and I had employees, and we took a random Monday off for computer store day. We made up computer store day. We closed the store because there was a day for everything else, and we were open 7 days a week, and I wanted to give the team a day. We would not have been able to get away with that years later, but in the first probably 6 months of the company, yeah, we were able to get away with that. More coffee. Carla says, my mom was proud and supportive. It's great. That's how it should be. Parents should be proud and supportive of their kids, even if they don't understand what their kids are doing or why their kids are doing it. If it's something that is not directly harmful to your kids, if it's something they're passionate about, and if they may learn things from it, they should be encouraged. I think so often we apply adult standards to children. You've got to follow this through. Well, sometimes. But what if the kid thought they liked soccer and they find they hate soccer? You're going to make them stick it out for however long? What if they're miserable? Did you set an agreement with them? If you're going to do soccer, if I'm going to drive you, if I'm going to spend the money on this, that, and the other, you have to finish out the season. I think one of the most important elements of youth is starting to understand what you like and don't like, because that becomes so incredibly relevant as you get older. Frank says there is a World Martial Arts Day. It is November 27th, Bruce Lee's birthday. I can see the pro and the con of using Bruce Lee's birthday for that. We don't have the reach to pull something like this off yet. Give it a year or two. Let's revisit this. John follows up. I have not asked them what they think about my training. We don't really ever talk about my training. They know I train 3+ days a week. My mom congratulated me on my second dan the other day, but I don't remember them commenting on my training much more than that. Interesting. I don't really have much of a follow-up other than interesting. And we do have one more comment here on the Facebook group. From Kelly. Well, my dad signed me up when I was 11 for self-defense. We trained for a couple years off and on. Then I started back up in college. They were sort of supportive, but didn't understand why I made it a priority in my life. Thought I should do other things in my life and definitely didn't think I should give up my full-time job to do Taekwondo full-time. Never thought I could be successful in this type of business. They are very proud now, but I'm very glad I didn't listen to them and went out on my own despite their suggestions. That's great stuff. I'm not a parent. I've been pretty open about that. I have no children. However, I think I have some ideas on what good parenting looks like. And finding a balance in supporting your child's dreams, yet giving them advice on how you think they should do things. Because let's face it, your parents are older than you. They know stuff. They've experienced stuff you haven't. That has to be a very, very difficult balance. And I think for so many parents, they err on the side of safety. They want you to get the full-time job, the secure thing. And a lot of times that's based on what went right or wrong in their lives. They're looking at your life through the context of their own. So I'm glad, Kelly, that I'm also glad, Kelly, that you followed your own path. We have to follow our own path. It's nobody else's path. You can follow somebody else's path, but I don't know, where's an analogy for that? You would be the wrong train car for those tracks. Something like that. Just because you can follow the path doesn't mean it's the right path. Doesn't mean it gets you where you want to go. You all know my proclivity for thinking about the why and working backwards. What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to be able to say when you're really old and you're about to die and you think back on your life? You want to be able to look backwards and say, what? Work from that. For me, I made an impact and I had some fun along the way and I made other people's lives better. I'm definitely doing those things. I'm having fun. I think I am making the world better, and I know I'm making an impact on at least some lives. I'm going to keep going. All right. It's time to go. So, thanks for coming by. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting whatever it is you do for us, for you, for the martial arts. If you want to support us in our mission, if you want to, throw us a couple bucks in some way, you've got the Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick. You've got the code podcast, first cup 15 to save 15% at whistlekick.com. And you've got the whole list at whistlekick.com/family. The group, the Facebook group, is facebook.com/firstcupwithjeremy. If you don't do Facebook, maybe you'll set up an account just for this. But if you won't, you can always email me feedback or comments or stuff like that for the show. Jeremy at whistlekick.com. It is my email address for everything. You can use it for anything. Don't try to sell me anything because I already get enough of that. The spammers are getting very creative, and it gets me to read their emails, and it's very annoying. We do this show every weekday, 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, on Facebook, on YouTube. Tuesdays and Thursdays, like today, we are on Twitch. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, like tomorrow, Friday, we will be on Twitter. If Twitch and or Twitter ever grow to be of enough substance that I'm going to upgrade to the next paid tier on this software that we use, StreamYard, we'll do both, but we're not there yet. So, and we'll end off with Stacy's comment here. You are most certainly making an impact, and we are all better for it. There you go. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Have a fantastic Thursday, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Peace.